is that of the General Evaluator. Tonight she is going to give an overview on the GE responsibilities, expectations, and how-tos, with her educational topic, Developing Meeting Excellence. Please help me welcome DTM Carol Blair. You need to turn your mic on.
Yes. Thank you very much, Margaret. Good evening, Madam Toastmaster and fellow Toastmasters. I have a PowerPoint, so I'm going to share my screen. It says the host has disabled my screen sharing. Here we go. Tonight I'm talking about a subject that's very important to me. Every role we have in Toastmasters has a very specific purpose. It's designed to help us develop some skill sets that we not only use well in Toastmasters, but we also use in many other areas in which we live, learn, work, and play. So I'm going to talk about the roles, responsibilities of the General Evaluator and some of the how-tos that I believe are critical in that particular role. The General Evaluator evaluates everything that takes place at the meeting. And if you look at the right-hand side of the screen, you'll see all the areas that the General Evaluator is responsible for commenting on. From the minute the meeting starts to its finish, commenting on the meeting opening, the preparation of the room, the sergeant at arms, the Toastmaster, the table topics master, the speech evaluators, grammarian, awe counter, and timer. But the General Evaluator does not take the time to comment on the speakers because they will have been evaluated and time is precious in our meetings. So why do we do meeting evaluations? Well, I believe there are three reasons. The first one I refer to as enhancing our personal skill sets. And if you look at that list, you can see all the skill sets that you learn and you need to practice and demonstrate as a General Evaluator. There's critical thinking, there's planning, there's preparation, there's organization of your thoughts and your observations, there's time management, there's also motivation in terms of being encouraging and giving feedback, and there's also team building. The General Evaluator has a role in that, in terms of commenting on the overall club's performance and those members who make it happen. The second role is learning transferable skills. And those two are fairly evenly matched because the transferable skills are ones that you've learned in the Toastmasters meeting and you take them with you when you go out into the world. And again, I've listed all kinds of places where the skills you learn as a General Evaluator, you'll use those in all of those other areas. And the third point, and perhaps the most important in terms of Toastmasters, is it helps us develop and build meeting excellence. When the General Evaluator is doing a good job, our meetings are well organized, they're on time. That's what we get feedback on, and we're encouraged to continue to do that. We have continuous learning opportunities, and one of the most critical things is when we have excellent meetings, we recruit members and we retain members. People want to belong to an organization that says it's going to help them and then actually follows through and helps them. The General Evaluator has a role in making sure that's happening. So what's the responsibility of the General Evaluator? They're responsible for the evaluation team. So when we look at the team, we can see there are sort of 5 categories of roles in the meeting. So the timer, obviously, the awe counter, the grammarian, the speech evaluators, and the table topics evaluations, or evaluator, I should say. There are 3 segments that involve the General Evaluator if we're doing our job in terms of the responsibilities outlined and as defined by Toastmasters. So the first one is before the meeting. As a general evaluator, you're confirming the program with the Toastmaster. Now, we typically get our agendas 2 or 3 days ahead of time, so we know what that meeting is going to look like, who's going to be participating, and what roles are people playing. Another role of the general evaluator is actually to speak to the speech evaluators. That's part of your team, and you're ensuring that they know what their assignments are, they know who they're evaluating, they know what kind of a speaking project they're evaluating, and they're making sure they have the materials they require, i.e. the evaluation form. They also remind the other evaluation team members, so they make sure that the timer remembers that they're the timer, they know their role, they have the timing cards, or in this day and age of virtual meetings, that they have another way of displaying the timing parameters. They make sure that the all counter is ready. They make sure that the grammarian is prepared and has a word and has it well defined and is able to demonstrate it. And the last thing before the meeting that a general evaluator does is they prepare their remarks. They're going to be asked at the meeting to stand up at the outset and talk about what the role of a general evaluator is. So it's important to be able to describe that role, the purpose of it, and the benefits. And I think that's critical when we have guests, because let's face it, if you're a guest at a Toastmasters meeting, it probably looks like a lot of strange things that happen, and people need to understand the value of all of those roles. When you arrive at the meeting as a general evaluator, you're expected again to ensure that the evaluators have their materials. How many meetings have we had when someone hasn't got something they need, or they don't have the evaluation form? We want lickety-split meetings where people are well organized and we carry on with the meeting. Also have to confirm that the evaluators are present. So is the timer arrived? Is the timer in place with the lights, etc.? Checking with the grammarian. Is the grammarian there? Have they remembered their word of the day? And are they prepared to deliver it and discuss it with the club? To verify the speaker's times and notify the timer. Now that's again done as a matter of course in the Toastmasters role, but the evaluator is making sure that his or her team is ready for the meeting. And the other thing the evaluator does, the general evaluator, is they should take a position near the back of the room so they can actually observe the whole meeting and look at the interactions and be able to make a variety of observations that will be helpful to the meeting. Now, during the meeting, of course, you may be asked to introduce your evaluation team. That's an option. The Toastmaster can always call on the general evaluator to introduce the team, which means you would then take control of the meeting at that point and have each of your evaluation team members stand, talk about what they do, and most importantly, why. As many of you know, I'm a real proponent for always saying, why do we do what we do? What's the value again in that role? Of course, as you know, you evaluate each key role on the program, and those were all identified at the beginning of the presentation. You take notes. You take notes about everything that happens at the meeting, and I don't mean verbatim, but the critical points, the critical activities, the critical responsibilities that each of the roles have. Talk about what happens and what doesn't happen. So the timeliness, the preparation, the organization, enthusiasm, and just how well the responsibilities have been carried out. And then when you're introduced by the Toastmaster, of course, you do your report. You conduct, as we know, the evaluation portion of the meeting. So what are the keys to success as a general evaluator? One, the very first thing that's really critical when you're a general evaluator, you have to know what are the responsibilities and expectations of each program role so that you can assess the performance, you can note what people are doing well, and you can pick up on things that maybe aren't being done so well or just simply being missed in the meeting. We have a great tool in Toastmasters that helps us do this. It's called the General Evaluation Checklist. It has it all described in terms of the areas where the general evaluator is to comment and places to take notes. So you can do your little bulleted notes. So it helps you when it comes time to do your report. That's downloadable from TI. So again, you're noting the things that have been done well. And again, you're reinforcing why have they been done well? What did that person do that spelled excellence in their performance? And of course, you're also noting what areas need improvement. Where do we need to keep growing as individuals in the roles? Where do we need to keep growing as a Toastmasters Club? And at the same time, you're giving very pertinent, meaningful feedback, just as we do with our speech evaluations. So if we're going to suggest an area where we think hasn't been performed well, then we must have an idea of how it could be done better and what's expected in that role. So making it meaningful. And then being encouraging of the good that is being done, the display of good competencies and skill sets, while we still identify areas where people can grow. So it's a two-point process. So it just quickly show you the evaluator checklist. I mean, you couldn't ask for a better tool. It even tells you how you introduce your role. And you'll see this is the front page. You'll see how it's divided into the sections. You go to page 2, and again, it has all of the questions. So reviewing this ahead of time, you're well prepared in terms of the expectations for carrying out that role. And the last point, the general evaluator in a nutshell, be the one who points out what is going right. Grammatically, that might be a bit problematic, but be the one who helps out what is going wrong. So that's our role. Is be proud and celebrate what we do well and continue building on that skill set. And when there are areas we can improve, to encourage people to keep working on those skill sets and performing at them and demonstrating them and practicing them. And we will have excellent meetings that members will be thrilled to attend and guests will be just awestruck with how great we are. Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you, Carol, Blair. That was very well done. Yeah, let's give Carol a big jazz hand appreciation. If you have